Hello, my most amazing artists. Welcome to art class. This week is our second week on our very first project, crystal clusters. Last week we focused on line and shape in our elements of art. This week we're going to jump down to value and form and how to use that in our art. Okay. Remember, the elements of art are tools that artists use to create an artwork. Okay. So like I said, we're doing value and form today. So what exactly is form and value? Well, forms and shapes have a lot to do with each other. Shapes are 2D, meaning they're only measured by their height and their width. How tall they are is their height. How wide they are is their width. Forms, on the other hand, are 3D. They're more three-dimensional. They kind of jump out of the picture because they're 3D, and they're measured by their height, their width, and their depth. So their height is how tall they are, their width is how wide, and their depth is how far back they go in the picture. Okay, just like shapes, there are geometric forms and organic forms. Forms are really useful for an artist because it makes your drawing look a lot more realistic. And the way that artists use or create form is by using value. Okay, so value is the lightness or the darkness of a color. All right, so we'll talk more about that, and I'll teach you how to create value using color. But basically, value is this whole range of lightness and darkness of a color. So over here it's really dark, but it's kind of a gradient as it goes towards the lightest shade. Okay, so here the artist is using value on their shapes. So they have a cube, a cone, a sphere, cylinders, and over on one side it's really dark, on the other side it's really light. So we can tell that the light is coming from the lighter side. That's the light source. Okay, wherever the light is not hitting is usually a lot darker. Okay, and this is a really great example of how an artist is using value to create form. You can see all the dark spaces where the shadows are and all the lighter spaces where the highlights are, and that's what we're going to focus on today. This is a nice little song about value if you'd like to watch that. Okay, so here's our crystal cluster. Let's come back to our drawing so we can learn how to create form by using value. Okay, so we're going to need our drawing today that we did last week, a black marker, and some colored pencils. Okay, the first step is I'm going to outline or go over all of my pencil lines that I did last week with a black marker, just to make it stand out a little bit better once we start adding the value. Okay, you can do this with any color that you have. You can outline it with your colored pencils, you can outline it with a crayon, anything, but I'm just going to use a black marker to hopefully make my lines stand out a lot more. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll come right back and teach you how to add value using our colored pencils. Okay, so I have gone over all of my pencil lines, and if you want, you can go back and erase any extra pencil marks that you see, just to keep your artwork nice and neat and clean. Okay, we worked really hard on it, so we want it to look as nice as possible. Okay, so now let's move on to adding value to our crystals. If you notice in our reference drawing here, they have a lot of value. There's darker areas, there are lighter areas, which in turn gives this crystal cluster form, and it makes it look a lot more three-dimensional. We kind of made our crystal clusters look a little bit 3D with the lines that we used last week and the shapes, but we're going to go one step further and add value to it today. All right, it's probably a good idea to, either on a clean sheet of paper or on the back of your drawing, practice adding value, okay, or practice drawing value. So to add value, the main thing you want to think about is how hard you're pressing down with your pencil. Okay, so if I press down relatively hard, not super hard to where I'm breaking my pencil, but a little bit harder, we can see it's darker. But if I start to pull my pencil up just a little bit at a time, it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. Okay, and to get a smooth gradation, you can go back over it again. Maybe add a little bit more darkness over here by pressing down harder and getting lighter and lighter till it looks like a nice smooth gradation. So again, I'll show you in a different color this time. Let's try green. Okay, So like I said, it's probably a very good idea for you to practice this before you add it to your final drawing. But if I press down really hard, then the color is darker. But if I start to bring my pencil up just a little bit as I move on, you can see that over here on this area, it's a lot darker. And as I pull my pencil up, the color gets a lot lighter. Okay, and that is how we're going to add form to our crystal clusters. Okay, you can do this any color that you want to. You can have a bunch of different colored crystals. That is totally up to you. But I will start with a light blue. Okay, and in each of our shapes, we're going to add value to give it form. Okay, so I think on the edges of our crystal cluster, it will be a little bit darker. So I'm going to press down a little bit harder towards the edges, and as I come towards the middle of our crystal clusters, we're going to get lighter. So on the edges, we're going to press down harder, and as I come closer to the center, I'm going to pull my pencil up to make it lighter. Okay? And as you can see, this little section here is a lot more 3D. It has a lot more form than all these flat shapes. Okay? So I think up at the top, it's going to be a bit darker. And as I come down to the center of my crystal, it's going to get lighter. Okay. Okay, I'm almost done with this middle crystal, but right here, this shadow isn't blending as nicely as I would like it to. So you can always go back into your value that you've already added and go back over it just so it blends a little bit better and it looks more like a gradient. And also, if you want some areas to be a little bit darker, you can find a darker color, like maybe since I used a light blue, I can use a dark blue or even a purple to go back over and press down a little bit harder so it looks darker. Go back over your darker areas to make them that much more darker, to help them stand out a little bit more and give our shapes a lot more form. Okay, the darker something is compared to how light something is, it gives our picture contrast, which kind of helps move your eye throughout the picture. All right, do you guys see how much more 3D the middle crystal looks in comparison to the ones I haven't added value yet? This one has a lot more form and it makes it stand out a lot more. So I'm going to do this to all of my crystals, and it might take a while, especially if you're taking your time and being nice and neat with it, but trust me, it will be worth it, and your picture is not due until Friday, okay? So you have all week to work on this, all right? So I'm gonna go ahead and add value to all of these, and I'll come back and show you what it should look like after I'm done. All right, guys, this is our completed crystal clusters drawing. As you can see, my shapes are looking a lot more three-dimensional since I've added value to create form within my lines and my shapes. Hold on to this drawing because next time we are going to add on to this same project. Okay, we're not done just yet, but you guys have until the end of the week to finish this. I will be checking on this weekend, okay? So make sure you get it all done by Friday. Okay, I hope you guys have fun and enjoy creating all this amazing form by using value. All right, guys, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.